Hello there and welcome to Science for Sleep, where curiosity tucks itself under the blanket of wonder, and science tiptoes softly into the quiet corners of your thoughts. Tonight, we're floating gently into one of the great mysteries that has whispered through campfires, sparked stories in late-night cafes, and stirred the imaginations of poets and physicists alike. Why haven't aliens taken over the Earth yet? In a universe scattered with billions of stars, each twinkling like a distant lighthouse, surely we aren't alone. And yet, here we are, listening to the soft hum of our own world, waiting, wondering. Perhaps you've gazed up at the night sky before bed, counting stars like scattered grains of sugar, and asked yourself, is anyone looking back? And speaking of where we are, I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from tonight? What time is it in your little corner of this vast, star-speckled cosmos? If you find this gentle journey soothing, or if the weight of these cosmic questions helps your thoughts drift like slow clouds, I'd be ever so grateful if you gave this video a like, or subscribe to this sleepy corner of the universe. And now, settle in, breathe, let your thoughts soften like moonlight on water, because somewhere between stars and silence, between facts and dreams, lies the story of why, in all this cosmic vastness, aliens haven't yet knocked on our door. Have you ever noticed how vast the sky feels at night? Perhaps you've stepped outside on a quiet evening, the air cool against your skin, and gazed up at that infinite canvas. The stars twinkle, distant and ancient, each one a tiny lighthouse shining across unimaginable stretches of space, and for just a moment, as you stand there, you feel both incredibly small and strangely significant. The thought arrives softly, almost like a whisper. Is anyone out there? This question isn't new. It hums quietly in the back of our minds, like the ticking of a clock we only notice in the silence. Whether we're children imagining friendly green visitors, or adults reading headlines about distant exoplanets, the mystery of alien life gently tugs at something deep inside us. And beneath that curiosity often lies a quieter, more unsettling thought. What if they're already out there? And if they are, why haven't they come here? In the stillness of the night, when the world is wrapped in shadows and our minds wander freely, these questions seem both thrilling and oddly comforting, because in their asking we glimpse the grandeur of the universe, a universe so enormous that the absence of visitors feels as mysterious as their possible presence. Our brains are not particularly built for this kind of scale. We're very good at thinking about things we can touch, measure, and see. How long until breakfast? How many pages left in the book? How far to the grocery store? But thinking about billions of stars, billions of galaxies, each possibly with planets, each planet perhaps with oceans, atmospheres, or even civilizations, that stretches our minds like soft dough pulled thin, and yet, despite the staggering numbers, the sky remains quiet. No motherships hovering above our cities, no alien ambassadors landing in fields of golden wheat, no undeniable broadcasts echoing through our radios. This silence, both comforting and eerie, has a name, the Great Silence, or more famously, the Fermi Paradox. But before we drift deeper into the scientific layers, let's linger for a while longer here, in the space of feeling. Because this question isn't just scientific, it's deeply emotional. It touches on loneliness, on hope, on the ancient human desire not to be alone in the dark. For some, the idea that aliens haven't arrived is reassuring. It means we're safe, special, unique. For others, it's unsettling. Because if the universe is bursting with stars and possibilities, shouldn't we have heard something by now? Seen something? The silence starts to feel heavy, almost ominous, as though something we don't understand is keeping visitors away, or worse, that perhaps civilizations out there flicker briefly before they disappear entirely. Even popular culture reflects these twin feelings, the joy of discovery and the dread of invasion. Friendly visitors like E.T. and Close Encounters standing alongside darker tales of hostile takeovers like War of the Worlds or Independence Day. The stories we tell about aliens often mirror our hopes and our fears, not just about the stars but about ourselves. And then there's the childlike wonder, the innocent imagining of colourful beings with big eyes and strange languages, waving multiple hands or floating through the air, who might one day appear to say hello. That playful part of our minds has always loved inventing creatures to fill the unknown. Long before we knew what galaxies even were, ancient stories spoke of beings from the sky, messengers, gods, travellers from the stars. Perhaps our fascination with aliens is simply the modern version of an ancient longing, a longing for connection beyond our tiny world, and yet, here we are, listening, waiting, and wondering. What makes this question so powerful is not just the enormity of space, but the stillness of it. And so, as we continue our quiet journey tonight, we'll explore not just whether alien life might exist, but why, despite all the odds, none have yet arrived on our doorstep. So settle a little deeper into your pillow. Let your breathing soften like a distant wave returning to shore, because the stars may be silent, but the mystery remains wonderfully alive. Long before we had telescopes, before we mapped the stars or whispered the word exoplanet, humans have been gazing up at the night sky and wondering. And in those ancient nights, without the glare of city lights or the hum of machines, the sky must have felt even larger, even closer. The stars, like scattered pearls upon a black velvet cloth, seemed to speak directly to the heart. Each one a mystery, each one a story waiting to be told. The idea of life beyond our world has always been with us, though ancient people didn't call them aliens as we do today. For them, the heavens were filled with beings both powerful and strange. Gods, spirits, messengers, and monsters. Not invaders from distant planets, but entities from realms just beyond human reach. In ancient Greece, philosophers like Epicurus speculated that the universe was infinite, filled with countless worlds, some perhaps even like our own. He imagined that life might blossom in many places, not just on this small blue world. His ideas, gentle ripples of cosmic curiosity, were not widely accepted at the time, but they planted a seed, a sense that perhaps, just perhaps, we were not alone. The Romans and Egyptians filled the skies with gods and deities, celestial beings who governed war, love, the harvest, and the changing of seasons. But their gaze was not towards scientific discovery. For them, the stars were sacred, not inhabited by distant neighbours, but by forces that shaped their destinies. In many indigenous cultures, the sky was seen as a living map, full of ancestors, animal spirits, and guiding lights. The Australian Aboriginal Dreamtime spoke of the sky as a canvas painted with the stories of creation. The Lakota people of North America spoke of star people, beings who lived among the stars and sometimes visited the earth, not in conquest, but in communion. Across oceans and eras, cultures wove the heavens into their myths, each interpreting those distant pinpricks of light through the lens of their fears, hopes, and faiths. In medieval Europe, the question of other worlds was largely set aside, as the Earth was seen as the singular stage of creation. To suggest that life existed elsewhere was to challenge deeply held beliefs about humanity's place in the cosmos. And yet, curiosity never entirely dimmed. Even as religious teachings framed the Earth as unique, some thinkers quietly wondered, if God's creation is infinite, could life not also be infinite? Might other beings too sing their own songs under alien suns? It wasn't until the Renaissance, when science once again stretched its wings, that these quiet musings found firmer ground. Copernicus displaced the Earth from the centre of the universe. Galileo's telescope revealed moons orbiting Jupiter, small worlds dancing around a giant. Suddenly, it became harder to believe that Earth was uniquely special. If other planets had moons, might they also have oceans, forests, creatures? As our understanding of the cosmos expanded, so too did our imagination. By the 19th and early 20th centuries, with Mars clearly visible through advancing telescopes, scientists and storytellers alike began to dream of Martian civilizations. Canals crisscrossed the Martian surface, or so some thought, perhaps built by an ancient industrious race. H.G. Wells, in his famous novel The War of the Worlds, painted a darker picture. Aliens, superior and ruthless, descending upon London, their tripods towering over panicked crowds. Here, the question was no longer, are we alone? But what if they come for us? And so, the notion of alien life slowly shifted from religious metaphor to scientific possibility, and then to cultural obsession. The 20th century brought new waves of fascination. As rockets soared and satellites whispered from orbit, the idea of extraterrestrial visitors slipped from speculative science into popular culture. Flying saucers danced through 1950s films, their shiny silver discs reflecting both wonder and Cold War paranoia. The day the Earth stood still offered a visitor who came in peace, but also brought warning. Independence Day later unleashed a more explosive vision of alien arrival. And somewhere between the horror and the hope, stories like E.T. reminded us of a softer possibility, that visitors from the stars might not come with weapons, but with curiosity and friendship. Even the term alien itself carries a kind of quiet poetry. It means other, foreign, unknown, yet within its unfamiliarity lies the invitation to imagine. The cultural interpretations of alien life often mirror our own human anxieties and dreams. Sometimes, we imagine them as conquerors because we fear what power unchecked can do. Sometimes, we imagine them as saviors because we long for wisdom beyond our own. Sometimes, we imagine them as lonely wanderers, like ourselves, searching the stars for company. Different cultures bring different metaphors. In some Eastern traditions, beings from the stars are woven into cycles of karma and rebirth, as cosmic travellers on their own spiritual journeys. In modern Western science fiction, they often become reflections of our own technological anxieties, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and interstellar colonization projected outward into alien forms. And throughout all these stories, one thread remains constant: the profound ache to not be alone. Even in humour, the mystery persists. We joke about crop circles, government cover-ups, and curious sightings in the desert. Yet beneath the laughter, a deeper truth pulses. We are creatures of wonder, staring into the cosmic dark, asking if anyone is out there asking the same. And while our telescopes now scan the skies for radio signals, while probes wander far beyond the reach of our sun, the question remains unanswered. It's a silence filled not with emptiness, but with potential. The absence of contact does not erase the hope of contact. If anything, it sharpens it, like waiting for a letter that may one day arrive. And so, throughout human history, from ancient storytellers to modern scientists, from whispered myths to blinking satellites, we have carried this same fragile hope, that somewhere in the vast, quiet ocean of stars, another mind may one day look up at its own night sky and wonder about us. So, how do scientists approach this grand silence? How do we begin to explain why, in a universe seemingly brimming with possibility, we have yet to receive so much as a cosmic postcard? Let's begin not with conclusions, but with a gentle framing, one that allows us to step softly into the mystery. The conversation usually starts with a question famously posed by physicist Enrico Fermi in 1950. It was a simple lunchroom remark, spoken almost casually. Where is everybody? That quiet question would come to be known as the Fermi Paradox, though paradox might be too harsh a word for such a gentle puzzle. It's more like a riddle whispered into the vastness. You see, the numbers seem to suggest that the universe should be teeming with life. Our Milky Way galaxy alone contains perhaps 100 to 400 billion stars, and many of those stars, as we now know, are orbited by planets, many of which rest comfortably within what we call the habitable zone. Not too hot, not too cold, but just right for liquid water, and perhaps for life. If even a tiny fraction of those worlds harbour life, and if even a tiny fraction of that life evolves intelligence, we should, statistically, expect the sky to be alive with civilizations. Radio signals crisscrossing the stars, explorers moving between systems, perhaps even great galactic federations debating whether to contact emerging species like ours, and yet silence. So why? To answer that, let's walk softly through some of the leading ideas, like gentle stepping stones across a misty pond. Possibility 1. Life itself is rare. Perhaps the first steps, the leap from chemistry to biology, are far harder than we imagine. Here on Earth, life arose surprisingly quickly once conditions stabilized. Microbial life appeared roughly 3.5 to 4 billion years ago, almost as soon as liquid water pooled and temperatures allowed. This suggests that life may spark easily, given the right conditions. But simple life, bacteria, algae, single-celled organisms, is one thing. Intelligent technological civilizations capable of reaching out across the stars, that may be quite another. The path from single cell to conscious mind is long and winding, filled with evolutionary leaps, mass extinctions, and countless fragile balances. The emergence of intelligence may require not just time, but a very specific chain of fortunate events, like drawing the perfect hand from a cosmic deck of cards. If that's true, then intelligent life may be astonishingly rare, even if simple life is common. Possibility 2. The Great Filter. This idea suggests that somewhere along the path from stardust to starships, there exists a barrier, a hurdle so high that almost no civilization clears it. Perhaps it's the origin of life itself. Perhaps it's the leap to multicellular complexity. Perhaps it's surviving technological adolescence, avoiding self-destruction once nuclear power, artificial intelligence, or climate instability arise. The unsettling question is whether we have already passed this great filter, or if it still lies ahead of us. If we are one of the few to have made it this far, we may be rare survivors in a quiet universe. If the filter is still to come, then silence might not be reassuring. It might be a warning. Possibility 3. Technological civilizations are short-lived. Even if intelligent life does arise, it may not endure. Civilizations may burn brightly for brief cosmic moments before vanishing, consumed by war, environmental collapse, or simple indifference. Perhaps the default fate of intelligence is self-extinction, leaving behind only the silent ruins of once vibrant worlds. This possibility carries a certain melancholy. It suggests that the silence may be not because life is absent, but because intelligence is fleeting. Possibility 4. We are very early. It may simply be that we are among the first. The universe is still young in cosmic terms. Our own sun is barely halfway through its lifespan. Other stars, cooler, longer-living red dwarfs, will burn for trillions of years. Perhaps life is only just beginning to bloom across the cosmos and we are among the early sprouts. If so, the silence may not last forever. One day, the stars may hum with conversation, but for now, we are pioneers in a still quiet galaxy. Possibility 5. Distance and time are vast. Even if alien civilizations exist, they may be unimaginably distant. The nearest star to our Sun, Proxima Centauri, is over 4 light-years away. That's roughly 40 trillion kilometers, a number that, like so many cosmic numbers, is difficult to truly grasp. Sending a message across such distances takes years. Sending ships would take centuries or longer. Civilizations may rise and fall in the time it takes a signal to cross the void. 2 neighbouring species could miss each other entirely, like ships passing in a fog. Space is vast. Even if life exists elsewhere, the sheer scale may keep us apart. And then, of course, there's the possibility that we are simply not looking the right way. Our search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI, mostly listens for narrow radio signals sent intentionally or unintentionally by distant civilizations. But perhaps advanced species don't use radio at all. Perhaps they communicate through means we cannot yet imagine. Quantum entanglement, neutrino pulses, or technologies so far beyond us that their signals pass silently through our instruments, unnoticed. In that sense, the silence may not be silence. It may be a song we have not yet learned to hear. This is where the science gently blends into humility. Because every theory we build is built from one small sample, us. We are the only known intelligent species, one data point floating in an ocean of unknowns. It's entirely possible that life takes forms we cannot yet imagine, that intelligence evolves along paths we have never considered. Perhaps some civilizations retreat inward, choosing virtual realities or meditative stillness over exploration. Perhaps others communicate through biology rather than technology, using signals embedded in living systems rather than machines. Perhaps others evolve forms we would not even recognize as alive. And so, as we begin to reach outward, we also must be willing to stretch our imaginations. Not just to ask, where are they? But what might they be? There's also the possibility that they have found us and simply chosen to stay quiet. This idea is sometimes called the zoo hypothesis, a gentle and strangely comforting notion that we are being observed, much like animals in a protected reserve. Perhaps advanced civilizations have watched our planet bloom with life, seeing us grow from stone tools to satellites, choosing not to interfere, allowing us to evolve and mature at our own pace. After all, what might it feel like to watch a young species take its first steps into space, to see us stumble through war, art, discovery and mistakes, and wonder whether we are ready for contact? In this view, the silence isn't absence, it's patience. And perhaps when we are ready, when we've shown the wisdom to handle such knowledge with care, that great silence might finally break. But there are other, even stranger possibilities. Some scientists have suggested that truly advanced civilizations might not explore the stars physically at all. Instead of building ships or colonies, they might turn inward, transforming themselves into purely digital entities, existing within vast computational worlds, living entire lives at accelerated speeds within artificial realities. For such beings, the messy, dangerous work of physical exploration may hold little interest. They may have entire simulated universes to explore, richer and more complex than anything the physical cosmos can offer. From our perspective, these digital civilizations would be invisible, quiet ghosts in a machine we cannot see. And then there is the possibility of self-imposed silence. Perhaps advanced civilizations learn that broadcasting signals into the dark carries risks. After all, if the universe holds both peaceful and hostile species, advertising one's location may not be wise. In such a view, civilizations may deliberately choose to remain hidden, suppressing outgoing signals, cloaking their planets, or using communication methods that avoid detection. In this possibility, the silence is not emptiness, but deliberate caution, a galactic game of hide and seek. Or perhaps they never got the chance. As we scan the cosmos, we see evidence of cosmic violence, supernovae tearing stars apart, gamma-ray bursts sweeping entire systems clean of life. The universe can be both beautiful and brutal. It's possible that entire civilizations may have risen, only to be extinguished by natural catastrophes, planetary collisions, solar flares, or unstable stars ending in violent collapse. Their worlds might lie quiet now, ancient ruins beneath alien skies, silent witnesses to potential lost. And still, there's the humbler possibility that life simply requires more than we imagine. Perhaps the emergence of life is not just about being in the habitable zone. but requires a rare combination of conditions: magnetic fields to shield from radiation, plate tectonics to recycle nutrients, a stable moon to steady the planet's tilt. Even here on Earth, life clings to an extraordinary balance, one that has been punctuated by mass extinctions and narrow survivals. It may be that the conditions for intelligent life are not merely uncommon, but staggeringly rare. In that view, we may not be typical, but astonishingly fortunate. And there is one more possibility, one that whispers quietly at the edge of all our questions, that we are simply the first. That in the vast unfolding of cosmic time, intelligent life is still in its infancy, that we stand at the dawn as one of the earliest sparks to awaken beneath the stars. If that is true, then the silence is not loneliness. It is the hush before the chorus begins. In billions of years to come, the galaxy may indeed hum with voices. Ships may sail between worlds. Civilizations may rise and converse across thousands of light years. But for now, we are among the first to ask the question. And perhaps, in this quiet beginning, there is a strange beauty. Our search continues softly and patiently. Astronomers scan the skies for brief flickers of unusual light, artificial structures that might surround distant stars. Telescopes like Kepler and James Webb search for biosignatures in alien atmospheres, traces of oxygen, methane, or chemicals that suggest life at work. Radio arrays like SETI listen to the stars, waiting for a whisper in the static. And yet, year after year, the silence holds. But the search itself is part of the wonder. Because even in the absence of answers, the act of looking connects us to something grander than ourselves. We are a species who looks up, who dreams, who listens. And so, as we sit here tonight, you in your corner of the world and I in mine, the stars continue their slow, ancient dance above us. And somewhere, perhaps, another mind may be gazing upward too, wondering, are we alone? To understand why aliens may not have taken over the Earth, we must first ask, how might an advanced civilization even spread through the galaxy? In theory, once a civilization develops the ability for interstellar travel, it could begin colonizing nearby star systems. Even at relatively slow speeds, say a tenth the speed of light, a civilization could reach nearby stars in a few decades. If each colony then sent out its own ships, a wave of expansion could spread across the entire galaxy in a few million years. And while a few million years may sound long to us, it is but a blink on cosmic scales. So if intelligent life arose even once, millions or billions of years before us, why wouldn't the galaxy already be filled with travelers? Why wouldn't we see evidence of vast galactic empires or visiting starships? This basic idea is sometimes called the von Neumann expansion, named after mathematician John von Neumann. It suggests that civilizations could build self-replicating machines, probes that travel to new systems, harvest resources, build copies of themselves, and continue spreading. Such probes would not require enormous populations or fleets, only a small number of autonomous devices expanding endlessly outward. If such a wave began even a few 100 million years ago, it could have easily reached every corner of the Milky Way by now, including Earth, and yet no probes, no starships, no visible galactic infrastructure. This forms one of the sharpest versions of the Fermi Paradox, the great silence against great possibility. But perhaps the answer lies not in what is possible, but in what is chosen. Civilizations may not expand for reasons we cannot easily imagine. Perhaps expansionist civilizations are self-limiting, collapsing under the strain of resource demands, political fragmentation, or internal conflicts before they spread far. Perhaps many species develop a preference for stability over expansion, investing in their own worlds rather than scattering across the stars. Perhaps they evolve ethical concerns, choosing not to interfere with other emerging civilizations, adopting a kind of cosmic non-interventionism. After all, as we begin to explore space ourselves, we already debate questions of planetary protection, avoiding contamination of potential alien biospheres. An advanced species may extend such caution across entire star systems. Or perhaps expansion itself is less desirable than we imagine. For us, exploration carries romance, a yearning for new frontiers. But to an advanced intelligence, the costs may outweigh the benefits. They may find greater richness within their own minds, cultures, or digital realms. Expansion may be an impulse unique to younger, more biologically driven species. If so, the galaxy may contain civilizations content to remain at home, quietly thriving, invisible from afar, and then there is a darker possibility, one that offers an unsettling answer to the silence. This idea is sometimes called the dark forest hypothesis, introduced by author Liu Cixin in his three-body problem trilogy. In this view, the universe is not silent because it is empty, but because it is dangerous. Imagine a dark forest filled with hunters. Each hunter moves quietly, aware that others may be lurking. Revealing one's position risks destruction. In this analogy, every civilization is like a cautious hunter, avoiding detection, fearful that any sign of life might invite an unknown, potentially hostile response. The logic is cold. Since we cannot know the intentions of others, and since any sufficiently advanced species might pose a threat, the safest strategy is silence. In this scenario, civilizations do not broadcast signals or build visible megastructures. They hide. And perhaps some who have revealed themselves in the past are no longer here. While sobering, the dark forest hypothesis echoes certain behaviors in our own world, where caution often dominates in uncertain environments. And yet, even this idea carries assumptions built from human experience. Perhaps advanced beings transcend fear, or perhaps their ethics evolve beyond conflict. But if the dark forest holds truth, then silence may be not a mystery, but a survival strategy. And then, softly, we arrive at the most humbling possibility, that we are simply not equipped to recognize alien civilizations, even if they exist. Our search tends to focus on signals and technologies we understand: radio waves, chemical biosignatures, spacecraft. But an advanced species may operate on levels entirely beyond our perception. Perhaps they are biological only briefly, transitioning rapidly into machine intelligences. Perhaps they harness physics we do not yet comprehend, manipulating dark matter or using dimensions beyond our space-time. Perhaps they operate at scales vastly smaller or larger than we can observe, existing as microscopic networks or as vast, diffuse intelligences spread across interstellar clouds. In such scenarios, alien life would not resemble starships or city lights, but patterns so strange that we fail even to recognize them as artificial. As the philosopher Arthur C. Clarke once said, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. The silence we perceive may not be true silence, only the absence of signals we can interpret. We may stand like ants, unaware of the highway overhead, seeing only shadows we cannot decipher. Still, despite these uncertainties, our search continues. The field of SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, quietly scans the skies, listening for narrowband radio signals, laser pulses, or any unusual emissions that might suggest an artificial origin. So far, no confirmed signals have been found. There was once the famous WOW signal, detected in 1977, a brief, strong burst that matched some expectations for a possible artificial signal. Yet, it was never repeated, and its origin remains unexplained. More recently, scientists have begun searching for technosignatures, indirect signs of technological activity. These might include excess heat emissions from giant structures surrounding stars known as Dyson spheres, unusual atmospheric compositions suggesting industrial activity, irregular stellar dimming patterns that could indicate artificial megastructures. Telescopes like Kepler and James Webb offer unprecedented views of distant exoplanets, their atmospheres, orbits, and chemistry. Perhaps, hidden within their data, clues may one day emerge, and yet so far, still quiet. Among the many scientific explanations offered for our solitude, there is one that gently shifts the focus back to us, to Earth itself. This is the rare Earth hypothesis. It suggests that while simple microbial life may be common across the cosmos, the emergence of complex intelligent life, creatures who build cities, ask questions, and gaze at the stars, may require an extraordinarily unlikely combination of circumstances. Our own planet, while appearing ordinary at first glance, may in fact be an extraordinarily rare jewel. It possesses a long list of fortunate features: a stable, long-lived star, a planetary orbit within the habitable zone, a large moon that stabilizes the planet's tilt, preventing extreme climate swings, plate tectonics, which recycle carbon and regulate temperature, a strong magnetic field shielding the surface from harmful solar radiation, an atmosphere thick enough to protect but thin enough to breathe, a cosmic neighborhood that has, for billions of years, avoided nearby supernova or gamma-ray bursts. Each of these features may, on its own, be common, but their combination at the same time and place may be vanishingly rare. And if so, while the galaxy may teem with barren rocks, frozen wastelands, or steaming gas giants, worlds like Earth, and minds like ours, may be breathtakingly uncommon. We may not be alone because others have failed to arrive. We may be alone because few ever begin. And then, softly, a stranger idea tiptoes forward, one that turns the mystery inward. What if we are not even the first intelligent species on Earth? This is the gentle speculation known as the Silurian hypothesis, proposed not as evidence, but as a thought experiment. It asks, if an advanced civilization had arisen on Earth millions of years ago, long before humans, would we still see its traces? Our planet is dynamic. Tectonic plates shift, mountains rise and erode, oceans come and go. Over millions of years, the surface recycles itself. Most of the evidence of modern human civilization, our cities, buildings, roads, might not survive even a few million years. Plastics may endure for a time. Some chemical signatures might remain buried deep in sediments. But given enough time, even these may fade. So, if a civilization had blossomed and vanished during the age of the dinosaurs, or earlier still, we might never know. There is no current evidence that this occurred. The Silurian hypothesis is not a claim, but a reminder of how fragile traces can be, and it whispers a humbling possibility that even on worlds where life blooms, intelligence may be a brief, flickering spark. Perhaps the stars hold many worlds like ours, with lost civilizations buried beneath ancient rock, their stories erased by time. And as we continue gently down this path, we encounter a more philosophical lens, the anthropic principle. It suggests that the very fact we are here, asking these questions, skews our perspective. We find ourselves on a planet that supports intelligent life because, by definition, only such planets can produce beings capable of noticing. This does not mean that life is common, only that wherever it does arise, observers will naturally find themselves there. It is not surprising to find yourself in a universe that permits your existence. This principle does not resolve the great silence, but it reminds us that our own existence, while wondrous, may not necessarily imply that the universe is teeming with others. We may be one of very few, or even one of one. And finally, softly waiting at the edge of speculation, sits one of the most provocative ideas of all. What if the reason we do not encounter alien civilizations is because we are inside a simulation? This is known as the simulation hypothesis. It suggests that advanced civilizations, either human or alien, may someday develop the ability to create perfect, detailed simulations of entire universes, complete with conscious beings. If such simulations are possible, and if many are created, then statistically, it may be more likely that we exist within one of these simulations rather than the base reality. In such a scenario, the absence of alien contact may not reflect the nature of the larger universe, but simply the parameters of the simulation we inhabit. Perhaps, in this version of the simulation, other civilizations were never programmed. Perhaps their absence is intentional, to allow us to evolve and wonder without interference. Or perhaps we're a controlled experiment, one storyline among countless others. Of course, the simulation hypothesis remains unproven, and perhaps unprovable. Yet it serves as a final reminder that the mystery of the Great Silence may lie not in the stars, but in the nature of reality itself. And so, as we draw this deep dive gently to a pause, we find ourselves standing not with answers, but with questions. Beautiful, quiet, endless questions. Perhaps that is what makes this mystery so captivating, because in seeking others, we discover ourselves. It is one thing to wonder whether we are alone, but it is another thing entirely to recognize that this question, like the stars themselves, has evolved along with us. The story of how humans have approached the mystery of alien life is not just a tale of science, but of shifting perspectives, expanding horizons, and quiet revolutions that have changed how we see both the universe and ourselves. For most of human history, the night sky was a kind of ceiling, mysterious, distant, but somehow familiar. The stars were seen as tiny lights fixed into a great dome that arched above the earth. The sun, the moon, and the wandering planets moved across this dome with predictable grace, their patterns watched carefully by farmers, priests, and sailors. But the idea that those distant points of light might be suns themselves, each with its own collection of worlds, was not yet part of the imagination. To many ancient cultures, the heavens were home to gods, ancestors, or celestial spirits, not distant civilizations waiting to be discovered. Still, even in these early times, some seeds of cosmic curiosity quietly took root. In the 4th century BCE, the Greek philosopher Epicurus speculated that the universe was infinite, and that countless other worlds might exist beyond our own. His vision, though radical, was quietly preserved by a handful of thinkers over the centuries. Yet for most, Earth remained the centre of creation, unique, singular and alone. This geocentric view was reinforced for centuries by religious and philosophical traditions that placed humanity at the very heart of the cosmos. To suggest otherwise was to challenge not only the structure of the heavens, but humanity's special place within them. For a long time, the stars remained ornaments rather than destinations, their distance both physical and spiritual. And then, like a gentle but unstoppable tide, the scientific revolution began to shift everything. In the 16th century, Nicholas Copernicus proposed a sun-centered model of the solar system, displacing Earth from its privileged position at the center. This heliocentric idea was more than a rearrangement of orbits. It was the first crack in the ancient belief that our world was fundamentally different from the rest of the cosmos. If Earth was simply one planet among others, then perhaps other planets might host life as well. Galileo Galilei's telescope soon followed, opening the heavens to direct observation. Through his small glass lens, Galileo saw mountains on the moon, and moons orbiting Jupiter. Suddenly, other worlds were no longer abstract ideas but tangible places, their surfaces real, their motions observable. The cosmos was not a fixed and distant backdrop but a dynamic, complex, and perhaps even inhabited space. As the centuries progressed, so too did our ability to peer deeper into the skies. Newton's laws of motion and gravity offered a framework that made the universe predictable, calculable, and mechanical. The stars were no longer unknowable fires. They were distant suns governed by the same physical laws that ruled apples and cannonballs. This realization added fuel to the growing sense that Earth might not be exceptional. By the 19th century, as telescopes grew more powerful and theories more sophisticated, the idea of life beyond Earth began to migrate from philosophy into the early edges of science. Mars in particular captured the imagination. Observers believed they saw canals etched across its surface, leading some to speculate about the existence of intelligent Martians. Authors like H.G. Wells turned these musings into vivid narratives, blending emerging scientific curiosity with the timeless art of storytelling. The 20th century would bring both refinement and radical expansion to this quiet search. As humanity learned to fly, to send rockets skyward, and to launch satellites into orbit, space was no longer distant, it was within reach. The moon, once a symbol of unreachable mystery, became a place where human footprints were pressed into dust. The development of radio technology offered a new possibility. Perhaps alien civilizations were trying to communicate, sending messages across the void. Scientists began to listen, pointing great radio telescopes toward the stars, hoping to catch a whisper from distant minds. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI, was born. Early optimism was tempered by the vastness of space and the challenges of detection. The famous WOW signal, a brief burst of radio energy detected in 1977, stirred hope for a time, but like so many cosmic mysteries, it faded without repetition or clear explanation. Still, the listening continued, quietly, patiently. The late 20th and early 21st centuries brought new instruments and deeper insights. The discovery of exoplanets, worlds orbiting other stars, transformed the search entirely. For centuries, the question of other worlds had been purely speculative, but now, through careful measurements of starlight and the delicate wobble of distant suns, astronomers began to catalogue thousands of planets, many of them potentially similar to Earth. The Kepler Space Telescope, followed by others like the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite and the James Webb Space Telescope, turned the search for life from an abstract hope into a methodical investigation. For the first time, scientists could analyse the atmospheres of these distant planets, searching for chemical signatures that might suggest the presence of life. Oxygen, methane, water vapour. Tiny hints that a world far away might host something living. Through all these discoveries, our perspective continued to evolve. The sheer number of potentially habitable worlds was both thrilling and humbling. If life could emerge on one small planet orbiting an ordinary star, why not elsewhere? And yet, even as the catalogue of worlds grew, the silence held firm. No signals, no visiting ships, no unambiguous signs of intelligent neighbours. The more we learned, the more profound the mystery became. Alongside these scientific advances, our cultural interpretations continued to shift as well. Science fiction blossomed into a vast landscape of imagination, exploring every possible answer to the question of alien life. Some stories offered hopeful visions of peaceful contact and shared wisdom, while others reflected deeper anxieties, fears of invasion, domination, or destruction. Through it all, the underlying question remained constant, like a quiet heartbeat beneath the changing melodies of time. Are we alone? And if not, where are they? Today, the search for life beyond Earth continues with a quiet determination. Robotic explorers roam Mars, drilling into its ancient soil in search of fossilized microbes. Spacecraft like Voyager have slipped beyond the boundaries of the solar system, carrying golden records with greetings in dozens of human languages, drifting ever outward into interstellar space. Radio observatories continue to scan the heavens for signals that might betray the presence of distant minds. New disciplines have emerged to join the search. Astrobiology explores the possibilities of life under extreme conditions, in frozen oceans, acidic lakes, and crushing pressures, expanding our understanding of where life might thrive. Synthetic biology imagines how life might arise under different chemistries, perhaps with silicon instead of carbon or ammonia instead of water. The search is no longer limited to listening for beacons or looking for familiar blue-green worlds. It has become a vast, multidisciplinary exploration of what life itself might be in all its possible forms. And yet, despite the growing sophistication of our tools and the widening circle of our knowledge, the great silence remains. It is a silence filled with both mystery and meaning. For some, it suggests that we are rare, perhaps even unique, a fragile flicker of awareness in a vast indifferent cosmos. For others, it hints that the story is not yet complete, that we are early, standing on the threshold of discovery, our instruments not yet sensitive enough to catch the first faint whispers. The historical journey of our search for extraterrestrial life is, in many ways, a reflection of our own growth as a species. From myth to science, from imagination to calculation, we have slowly learned to ask the question with greater precision, even as the answer continues to elude us. And so we listen, and we wait, because whether the universe is teeming with life or almost entirely empty, the act of searching is itself an expression of who we are. Curious, hopeful, endlessly reaching toward the stars. As we stand here, quietly balanced between what we know and what we wonder, it becomes clear that the question of alien life is not merely scientific. It is something softer, deeper, something that brushes against the very edges of our understanding of existence itself. The silence of the stars does not just puzzle the astronomer. It stirs the poet, the philosopher, and the dreamer who lives inside each of us. Because whether we find others or not, the question itself reflects something profoundly human. Our longing for connection, for significance, for some assurance that we're not simply a fleeting accident in a cold and indifferent universe. For many, the possibility that we are alone carries a kind of quiet terror. In the vast darkness stretching endlessly in all directions, we might be the only flicker of awareness, the only mind to have ever wondered. Our songs, our stories, our joys and sorrows, all confined to one small blue world, circling one ordinary star in a corner of one galaxy among trillions. In such a universe, we are precious, but also fragile. The weight of that solitude presses heavily upon the heart. If we are alone, then the responsibility of life itself rests solely on our shoulders. Every loss, every extinction, every choice echoes with greater consequence. There would be no distant cousins to comfort us, no ancient galactic libraries to consult, no elder civilizations to guide our trembling steps into the unknown. We would be the first and the only, and yet for others that same solitude carries a strange and beautiful dignity. To be alone is also to be unique, to write the first chapter of the cosmic story, to shape our destiny without interference, to explore, to learn, to stumble and grow, all on our own. In that view, the absence of others is not a void but an invitation, a blank canvas stretched across the stars waiting for us to fill it with meaning. Some have even suggested that loneliness itself might be a necessary condition for the blossoming of intelligence. Without the comfort of external contact, perhaps we are driven inward, forced to seek understanding, to build, to question, to dream. In our solitude, we become storytellers, philosophers, scientists, all reaching outward not because someone answers, but because the act of reaching defines who we are. Then softly another possibility arrives, one that whispers of humility rather than grandeur. Perhaps the question itself is flawed, shaped too narrowly by the limits of our own perspective. When we ask, are we alone? We assume that life elsewhere would resemble us, or at least be recognizable. But what if life, or consciousness, takes forms we cannot yet imagine? Perhaps the universe is filled with patterns of awareness that drift through nebulae, or think at the pace of tectonic plates, or reside not in biology but in the deep hum of magnetic fields. Perhaps intelligence can bloom without language, without technology, without the need for cities or spacecraft or signals that we could recognize. In such a universe, the great silence may be an illusion, born not of absence but of difference. We may not be alone, only unaware. Still further down the path of wonder lies the question of purpose. If life is rare, is there meaning in that rarity? Are we participants in some vast unfolding story, or is the universe indifferent to our presence? Does consciousness itself serve a function beyond its own fleeting experience, or is it merely a beautiful accident of chemistry and chance? These questions slide quietly from the realm of science into the soft shadows of philosophy. They remind us that the search for alien life is not just a search for others, it is a search for ourselves. Who are we in this vastness? What does it mean to exist, to wonder, to hope? And then, as if tiptoeing into the room, arrives one of the most unsettling yet strangely liberating ideas of all. Perhaps time itself plays tricks on our expectations. We imagine civilizations rising and coexisting across the galaxy, like lights glowing simultaneously across a distant hillside. But perhaps civilizations do not overlap. Perhaps they bloom and fade across eons, like fireflies blinking in the dark, each alone in its brief moment of brilliance. One arises, flourishes, reaches toward the stars and vanishes before the next appears. Entire civilizations might have come and gone long before Earth even cooled enough for life to begin. If so, the silence may be not of emptiness, but of timing. We may simply be too late, or too early, to encounter others. This vision of cosmic solitude is not unlike standing on the shore of a vast empty ocean. We know that other ships must have sailed these waters, and that others may yet come, but at this moment we stand alone, watching the waves roll gently beneath the stars, waiting. And then, softly, comes one more possibility, one that drifts between science and speculation, like a dream woven from both wonder and uncertainty. Perhaps the universe itself is not as it seems. Perhaps reality, at its deepest level, is a simulation, a crafted experience designed by beings we cannot perceive or comprehend. In such a universe, the absence of alien life may reflect not cosmic rarity, but the parameters of the simulation itself. Perhaps we're alone because the simulation has not populated this world with others. Perhaps we are part of a story being observed, or a model being tested, or an experiment designed to explore what an isolated intelligence might become. Such thoughts are dizzying, almost surreal. Yet they too emerge from the same deep place within us, the place that longs to understand why the stars are silent. In the end, perhaps the most profound truth is not whether others exist, but that we exist, and that we care enough to ask the question at all. For whether the universe is empty or teeming, the act of wondering connects us to something larger than ourselves. It binds us to the long chain of curious minds who have looked up before us, from the first ancient storytellers who named the stars to the scientists who launched telescopes into space, to each of us listening now in the quiet of the night. We are the question askers, the listeners, the ones who dream, and in that simple fact lies a kind of answer. Even if the stars remain silent, we're not without company, for we carry within us the spark of curiosity, and that perhaps is the rarest and most precious thing of all. As you rest beneath your own sky tonight, somewhere in your corner of the world, remember that this gentle mystery continues. The stars keep shining, the questions keep softly unfolding, and somewhere, perhaps, another mind is gazing upward too, wondering just as we do. Even though the question of alien life stretches out into the stars, into the distant corners of science and philosophy, it is also something that lives quietly right here with us, in the small and ordinary rhythms of our daily lives. We carry this question not just in observatories and spacecraft, but in our stories, our conversations, our imaginations. It slips into our dreams, lingers in our childhood fascinations, and even shows up in the quiet moments when we glance up at the sky on a clear night. From the time we are young, many of us feel that first gentle tug of wonder when we look at the stars. Children, before they know of equations or telescopes, ask questions that echo the deepest mysteries of the cosmos. Are there other people out there? Do they have homes and families and pets? Do they play games like we do? In these innocent questions lives the ancient longing for connection, a desire to know that we are part of something larger, something shared. Even in the playgrounds of imagination, aliens take many forms. Some are friendly and playful, like the wide-eyed visitors in storybooks or animated films. Others are mysterious and powerful, beings of advanced wisdom or strange customs. And sometimes they are frightening, invaders from the unknown, reflections of our own fears about the unfamiliar. But whether friendly or fearsome, the aliens of our imagination serve a simple human purpose. They allow us to explore our hopes, our anxieties, and our deepest curiosity about the unknown. As we grow older, the fascination often stays with us, weaving itself into the fabric of culture. Films, television shows, books, and games offer endless variations of what contact with alien life might look like. Sometimes these stories are hopeful, imagining peaceful encounters, shared knowledge, and interstellar friendships. Sometimes they are cautionary, exploring the dangers of misunderstanding, fear, or conflict between species who see the universe in utterly different ways. Think of the gentle friendship in it, the extraterrestrial, where a lost visitor from another world forms a bond with a child, teaching us about trust and empathy, or the awe-inspiring mystery of close encounters of the third kind, where music becomes a universal language bridging the gap between worlds. And then, too, there are the darker reflections, tales like Independence Day or War of the Worlds, where visitors arrive not to talk, but to conquer. In these stories, our greatest fears about power, vulnerability, and survival find expression against the backdrop of the stars. But even these more frightening tales serve a purpose. They allow us to rehearse our anxieties in the safety of fiction, to explore what it might mean to meet the truly unknown. And beneath the surface of all these stories lies a simple thread: the question of who we are and how we might respond when confronted with something utterly different. This fascination is not limited to the realms of entertainment. It finds its way into everyday conversations, into late-night debates between friends, into whispered stories told under starlit skies. Many of us have at some point gazed up and wondered, if someone is out there, are they watching us now? Have they seen our lights, our signals, our little spacecraft slipping beyond the edge of our solar system? Even in moments of quiet solitude, this question can emerge unexpectedly. Standing outside on a cool night, listening to the crickets and watching the slow arc of a satellite crossing the sky, one can feel both deeply rooted to Earth and curiously connected to the wider cosmos. The stars become not just distant points of light, but quiet companions in our nightly routines. In our cities, the question echoes in more modern forms. The rise of technology has brought with it countless claims, speculations, and stories of encounters. Reports of unidentified flying objects, blurry photographs of lights darting across the sky, secretive rumours of hidden government programs, all feed into the cultural fabric of alien fascination. These stories, regardless of their truth, reveal how deeply the idea of other life has taken hold in the human psyche. Even the language we use carries echoes of this curiosity. We speak of close encounters, of first contact, of the search for intelligent life. We have built entire communities of hobbyists and researchers who devote their lives to scanning the heavens, analysing data, and debating the possibilities. For some, it becomes a passionate pursuit, a calling to listen for the first whisper from beyond. But beyond the speculation, beyond the stories and debates, the idea of alien life has also shaped how we think about ourselves, about our place in the universe, and about the fragile beauty of the planet we call home. The knowledge that the universe may be vast, empty, or teeming with life sharpens our awareness of how precious life on Earth truly is. If we are rare, if civilizations are few and far between, then every tree, every ocean wave, every bird in flight becomes part of an extraordinary and fragile miracle. The blue of our planet's oceans, the warmth of the sun, the thin shield of atmosphere that protects us, all take on a quiet, deeper meaning. This awareness has gently influenced movements for conservation, for protecting the biosphere, for cherishing the intricate balance that allows us to breathe and thrive. In contemplating the possibility of others, we come to see the wonder of our own world more clearly. The question of alien life also touches softly on our sense of time. It invites us to think not just about years or centuries, but about cosmic scales. Millions, even billions of years. Civilizations may rise and fall in the blink of a galactic eye. Stars are born and die. Planets form and are consumed. And yet, here we are, existing in one brief moment, able to reflect, to wonder, to ask these timeless questions. There is something humbling in this awareness of scale. Our individual lives may be brief, but together we are part of a much larger unfolding. A grand, quiet story stretching back through ancient stardust and forward into the unknown. Even in our rituals and celebrations, echoes of the cosmic question sometimes appear. In moments of reflection, of looking up at fireworks bursting beneath a summer sky, or watching meteor showers streak across the darkness, we feel the quiet presence of the universe beyond. Holidays that celebrate the changing of seasons, solstices or celestial events are quiet reminders that we live beneath an ancient sky, shared by generations who came before us. And sometimes, unexpectedly, the question of alien life offers comfort. In moments of personal doubt, of loneliness, of wondering whether we matter, the idea that we might be part of a larger cosmic community, or even that others like us might one day emerge, can offer a quiet reassurance. We are not simply isolated specks, but participants in a mystery still unfolding. For others, the comfort comes in the opposite direction, in the possibility that we are unique, that our planet is a rare jewel, and that our existence carries with it a special responsibility. In either view, the quiet question of alien life invites reflection, humility, and a deeper sense of awe. The rhythms of our lives continue. Morning commutes, conversations over coffee, quiet evenings spent reading or sharing meals. And yet, somewhere beneath these simple routines the stars remain, distant, steady, waiting. They remind us softly that the universe is vast and that within it, the most ordinary moments of our days are touched by the grandest mysteries. And so, as you sit here now, perhaps preparing to rest, let this quiet truth settle gently into your thoughts. Even as the world slows around you, even as the day releases its final breath, the stars continue to shine. Above the familiar hum of daily life, the mystery remains vast and beautiful. Whether the silence is temporary or eternal, whether others are out there or we stand alone, the act of wondering itself connects us to something timeless. The stars do not rush. Neither must we. We listen, we dream, we wait. And perhaps in that waiting, we already share something with whatever minds may one day meet us beneath this ancient sky. Let us now step softly into the realm of imagination, that quiet corner where the boundaries between science and storytelling begin to blur, where the possibilities that science hints at blossom into rich, strange, and beautiful worlds of what if. Because while science offers its careful models and cautious probabilities, the question of alien life invites us too to dream. Imagine for a moment that the great silence were to break, not with a blaring broadcast or an arriving fleet, but with something far subtler. Perhaps a faint signal buried in the static of our radio surveys is one day noticed. A repeating pulse, too regular to be random. A sequence of prime numbers whispered across the light years, hinting not at accident, but at intention. The world would hold its breath. Every news channel, every conversation, every headline would pulse with wonder and fear. Are we hearing a greeting, a warning, or simply a declaration? You are not alone. And then perhaps a reply would be needed. Scientists and linguists would gather, debating how to answer. Mathematicians would craft messages of shared logic, for what language, after all, is more universal than numbers? Artists might suggest pictures, diagrams of atoms, molecules, the outline of our small planet circling its sun. And governments too would hesitate, weighing the unknown risks of announcing ourselves to the stars. What if, instead, the first encounter were physical, not an invasion, but a quiet arrival? A small unmanned probe discovered drifting at the edge of the solar system, ancient beyond comprehension, its creators perhaps long gone. Its purpose unclear, its technology a mystery. A kind of cosmic message in a bottle, washing ashore after a voyage lasting millions of years. How would we respond? Would we reverse engineer its secrets? Would we fear what sent it? Or would we marvel simply at its endurance, at the quiet proof that once, somewhere, someone reached out, and yet the possibilities stretch further still? Some imagine scenarios in which contact has already occurred, but not in the form of ships or signals. Perhaps advanced civilizations do not operate in ways we can easily perceive. Their presence might exist in the subtle patterns of nature itself, in the quantum fabric of reality, in the unexplained regularities of physical constants, or even encoded within the very structure of DNA. What if, in some distant past, they seeded the galaxy with life, and we are in a sense their distant descendants? Not through conquest, but through quiet engineering, setting the conditions for life to emerge and evolve in countless places. This brings us into the realm of panspermia, the idea that life may not have originated solely on Earth, but may have arrived here, carried on comets or ancient meteorites from elsewhere. In this view, life may be more interconnected than we imagine, with distant planets serving not as isolated experiments, but as linked nodes in a grand cosmic garden, tended by ancient gardeners we have never met. And then, softly, we arrive at one of the more unsettling what-ifs, the possibility that we are living inside an experiment carefully monitored by beings far beyond us, not in the sense of malicious watchers, but more like scientists observing a tiny terrarium. Perhaps our development is being quietly studied, our progress tracked. Interventions, if they exist, may be rare and subtle, nudging the course of our evolution without revealing themselves fully. This echoes gently the idea behind the zoo hypothesis, that we are protected, observed, and deliberately left in isolation until we are ready. But readiness is, of course, a slippery concept. Would it mean technological maturity, ethical wisdom, the ability to coexist peacefully, or something else entirely, a measure we have yet to even comprehend? Perhaps, too, there is the possibility that we are not being observed, but are instead kept isolated for our own safety, or for the safety of others. The notion of a cosmic quarantine is both sobering and strangely comforting. Perhaps the universe knows something about contact that we do not yet understand, and so we remain gently apart like a young species not yet ready to join the wider conversation. Science fiction has long played with these possibilities, offering glimpses into futures where contact transforms humanity in ways both beautiful and terrifying. In Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End, for example, alien visitors guide humanity into a higher form of existence, though at the cost of its individuality. In Contact by Carl Sagan, the first message arrives not as an invasion, but as an invitation to understand and to grow. And in countless other tales, we see the reflections of our hopes, our fears, and our longing for significance played out against the vast canvas of the stars. But what if time itself is part of the answer? The idea of cosmic civilizations rising and falling may not unfold on the human scale of decades or centuries, but across millions of years. What if intelligent life routinely arises, but its moments of technological capability are brief, separated by vast gulfs of silence? In such a model, the universe might be filled with civilizations, but almost none alive at the same moment. The stars, like ancient ruins, might still hold echoes of their passing, but finding each other would require not only great distance, but also great luck in timing. And then there is the curious paradox of visibility. Perhaps the most advanced civilizations are also the least noticeable. As species grow in wisdom and capability, they may learn to minimize their cosmic footprint, becoming increasingly efficient, using less energy, producing fewer emissions, and blending seamlessly into their environments. In such a universe, the most advanced beings would be the hardest to detect, not because they are absent, but because they have mastered the art of living lightly within the cosmos. Some even speculate that the true measure of advancement may not be in technological might, but in restraint, in the ability to live sustainably within the limits of one's homeworld, never needing to expand outward at all. If such a path is common, then perhaps the stars remain quiet not because they lack life, but because they contain civilizations that have no desire to announce themselves. And softly, as these speculations unfold, we arrive at one final, strange corner of possibility, that reality itself may not be quite what it seems. The simulation hypothesis suggests that our entire universe may be an artificial construct, a kind of sophisticated simulation created by beings far beyond our comprehension. If this were true, then the absence of aliens might simply reflect the parameters of the simulation, a deliberate choice to leave us alone, or a design that focuses solely on the development of one species within one corner of one artificial world. Whether this idea is true or not, it gently reminds us how much of our search for others depends on assumptions we may not even realize we are making. We search for life as we know it, using the tools we have built within a framework we have inherited from our brief experience. But the universe may be stranger and vaster than even our most imaginative stories can fully capture. And yet, through all these what-ifs, these beautiful, dizzying possibilities, one quiet truth remains. The act of wondering itself connects us across the centuries, across cultures, and perhaps even across worlds. We ask not because we are certain of an answer, but because the question stirs something ancient and deeply human within us. We are creatures who look up, who listen, who imagine, who hope. Whether we find others or not, whether we meet visitors beneath our own sky, or discover echoes of civilizations long vanished, the search itself becomes a kind of dialogue, not with the stars perhaps, but with our own reflection in the vast mirror of the cosmos. And so, as you breathe gently tonight, as your eyes grow heavy and your mind begins to drift, know that somewhere above you, the stars continue their ancient dance. They do not hurry, they do not answer, but they shine, and in their light, the questions remain. And maybe, just maybe, that is enough. And so, dear listener, we have drifted gently through vast spaces tonight. We began with a simple question, one that has echoed through the hearts of countless generations. Why haven't aliens taken over the Earth yet? And as we walked softly through science, history, wonder, and speculation, we found that the question itself is like the night sky, layered, endless, filled with quiet beauty and silent mystery. The stars have always invited us to look outward. Long before we could send telescopes into space or capture distant starlight with careful instruments, we looked up and wondered, and that wondering has become part of who we are, woven into our stories, our songs, our whispered conversations beneath quiet skies. We've seen that the silence may not be simple. It may hold many explanations, some scientific, some philosophical, some wrapped in paradoxes that we cannot yet fully grasp. Perhaps life is rare, a fragile miracle born only rarely in the vast darkness. Perhaps civilizations rise and fall like waves on a distant sea, rarely overlapping in time. Perhaps great filters stand between life's beginnings and the stars, waiting like unseen thresholds few ever cross. Perhaps others watch us quietly, waiting for us to grow into something wiser, something ready. Or perhaps the universe is more mysterious still, filled with beings we cannot recognize, or realities we cannot yet perceive, and yet through all these possibilities, one gentle truth has emerged again and again, that the act of asking the question, of listening to the silence, is itself an expression of something profoundly beautiful. Because whether we are alone or one among many, the stars continue to shine. They shine above your roof tonight. They shine above distant deserts and wide oceans, above cities glowing with electric light and forests sleeping in the dark. They have shone over all who came before us, those first early humans who painted their stories on cave walls, who pointed at constellations and told myths beneath the same ancient sky. And they will continue shining long after we're gone, long after our questions have faded, long after our tiny corner of the cosmos grows quiet again. But right now, in this moment, we are here, small perhaps, but awake, brief perhaps, but aware, alone perhaps, but dreaming. In the end, maybe that is the answer hidden quietly within the question itself, that the greatest wonder is not whether others exist, but that we exist, and that we care enough to wonder. And so, as you rest your head tonight, as your breath slows and your thoughts soften, let the stars hold you gently. Let the questions drift for now, like leaves floating on a quiet pond. The silence is vast. The mystery remains. But in this quiet moment, you are part of it all. A listener beneath the stars, a dreamer in the great unfolding story of the cosmos. Sleep well, fellow traveller, wherever and whenever you are. So here we are at the end of our quiet little voyage through the stars. We've wandered through ancient myths and modern science, through paradoxes and possibilities, through hopes, fears, and wonder. And now, like a softly closing book, our story rests for tonight. Before we part, let me ask you once more, as I did at the beginning, where are you listening from? What time is it in your little corner of this vast spinning world? Perhaps it's late. Perhaps the room around you has grown still, the quiet hum of night settling gently against your windows. Perhaps you can hear the steady rhythm of your breath, like waves softly rolling in and out along the shore. If this journey brought you a little calm tonight, a little wonder to carry into your dreams, I would be ever so grateful if you gently pressed like or subscribed or shared this sleepy corner with someone else who might need it. Because even though time may stretch wide and the stars may remain silent for now, we are here, you, me, and the gentle curiosity that binds us all together beneath this ancient sky. Sleep well, fellow traveller, wherever you are, whenever you are. The stars will keep shining, the questions will wait, and we, in our small and beautiful way, will keep dreaming. Good night.